This is AP Calculus AB. We're going to go through the Release 2001 question number 6. The function f is differentiable for all real numbers. Fantastic. The point 3 1/4 is on the graph of y equals f of x. And the slope at each point, xy, on the graph is given by dy over dx. So that's the derivative. Notice there are y's in the derivative. So that could complicate things or make them easier. Find the second derivative with respect to x, and then evaluate it at 3 1/4. Alrighty. Well, since we already have the derivative, to find the second derivative, we just got to find the derivative of this derivative. So the second derivative with respect to x, remember that's how the notation is, we're going to have to use the product rule for this. We're going to also be doing some implicit differentiation because that y squared is not the correct variable. So the product rule. Take the derivative of the first. The derivative of y squared is 2y. It's with respect to x. So we have a dy over dx times the second function. So just for emphasis, this is the derivative of y squared. First function, this is the second function. Plus, first function stays the same. Then we take the derivative of the second function. So once again, product rule. Derivative of the first times the second plus the first times the derivative of the second. Now you'll notice that we have in this the derivative, and we know what the derivative is, so we can replace that. So we got 2y. I'm going to take out that blue thing, dy over dx, and put in its place y squared times the difference of 6 and 2x. And then we had that 6 minus 2x that was already there. And then I'm going to simplify this right a little bit. Y squared, a positive y squared times a negative 2 is a negative 2y squared. And simplify it a little further. Now, keep in mind this is a free response question. You don't have to simplify. But by simplifying it, I'm going to make evaluating it at 3 1/4 easier. At least I hope. So if I distribute this, actually just distribute the 2y to the y cubed, and I put these two together, I'm going to get 6 minus 2x squared. As far as scoring goes, you would get 2 points if you successfully did what just happened there. Second part of the question, evaluate it at the point 3 1/4. So to do that, we got the second derivative evaluated at 3 1/4. So we're putting a 1/4 in for x, and we're putting a 1/4 in for y, and a 3 in for x. I wrote it right and said it incorrectly. Now I think, pretty confident, you could leave it that way on a free response question. With the rubric I looked at, they had it written down to negative 1/8, so just to be safe, I'm going to do that. For 1/4 cubed is 1/4 times 1/4 times 1/4. 4 times 4 is 16 times 4 more is 64. Here, 6 minus 6, that's convenient. That's super convenient. It makes this calculation real easy. So we got 2 times the 64th times 0 squared. And this is going to be a minus an eighth. It's going to be 0 minus an eighth, so that's a negative 1/8. As far as points go, you would get 1 point if you successfully got an eighth, or even possibly if you just plug the numbers in. I'm not an expert on scoring at this point. B, find y by solving the differential equation. So that means we're going to have to integrate, and to integrate, we got to separate our variables. So we got dy over dx equals y squared times the difference of 6 and 2x. Separate our variables. I'm going to divide both sides by y squared and multiply both sides by dx. Instead of me writing, well, I'll write it in steps so I don't confuse you here. If I'm going to integrate 1 over y squared, it's going to be easier if I write it as y to the negative 2. I'm going to integrate both sides. On the left, if I add 1 to the exponent, it would be y to the negative 1 multiplied by the reciprocal, that's negative 1. On the right, excuse me for a second, 6, its integral, its antiderivative is 6x, and then a minus 2x is going to be a minus x squared, and then add in our arbitrary constant. I could rewrite this just so it's easier to do calculations as negative 1 over y, and I like having my x terms in descending order. We're supposed to solve it with the initial condition of this. So I want to know what's going to happen when we have the ordered pair 3 1/4. So I'm going to put a 1/4 in for y, 3 in for x, and negative 1 divided by 1/4 is a negative 4. It's just reciprocal. And then over here, we're going to get a negative 9 plus 18 plus c. So we're going to end up with c is negative 13. And I have written possibly too big here. So then, to figure out what f is, I'm going to take my equation, and I'm going to replace the c with negative 13. I'm going to get y by itself. I'm going to multiply both sides by y. And then divide both sides by this trinomial. Tell you what, I'm going to throw this up here because I'm desperately running out of space. And then it says, that y is f of x, so let's write this as f of x equals. And then as far as points go, because we've answered the question, let's see, you're going to get a point for separating your variables. You're going to get a point for integrating the right side correctly and integrating the left side correctly. You're going to get a point for evaluating it at 3 1/4. You're going to get a point for finding the correct value of c, and you're going to get a point for figuring out what f of x is. Yeah, there you go. Hope you enjoyed.